Welcome to My Lord and I. In this series, we explore and learn from the experiences of seekers from around the world. Today, we have an international civil servant from Laos, Brother Avi Sarkar, with us. Before we jump into that beautiful story of yours, wanted to know a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and what was your background, and how you got into Laos. If you could elaborate on that, it would be really useful for the listeners.
I grew up in Calcutta, now Kolkata, and I did most of my schooling there and some in abroad. And then in Laos, I first went there working for the private sector for a fund management group. And then I switched on to international organization. And currently, that's how I'm employed as an international civil servant, engaged in some development projects.
How is this spiritual journey started, being in Kolkata and in various other countries, and then working as an international civil servant? How the spirituality element came into your life? How did that happen?
I think most Indians are born spiritual, and my parents were very, very spiritual. They would always take us, me and my sister, to satsang every Thursday, not a Sai satsang. They had their guru, and they would take us to the satsang. They will also take us to Ramakrishna Mission. And as a Bengali growing up, you would know about Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda, all those great illuminaries. And also, incidentally, there used to be a neighbor. My father would always have some spiritual discussion with that person, and he was a Sai devotee. He would talk about Puttaparthi, he would talk about Sai Baba, and I would always tag along with my father, and I used to enjoy those discussions. I used to sort of listen to them without understanding much. And I used to imagine that Sai Baba perhaps would be standing on a school platform, because we had a school dais. I would imagine that sort of a thing. And my father, although was not a Sai devotee, but he would read the literature which that gentleman would give, and he would always quote, some of those in various other familial occasions. So that was my sort of first glance into Swami. But as you mentioned, it was a spiritual family. My parents would sit for meditation and all. But that was our exposure to spirituality at that point of time.
So how did that magical moment happen where Swami got into your life?
I think it was in two phases. As I was mentioning about my childhood,
Right.
My elder sister, she might be in class 5 or class 6 at that point of time, and she was invited by her school friend. They were having a satsang or something at their home. I was too young to understand what it was. I must have been the last class of my kindergarten, something like that. And so my parents dropped both of us at their residence, and that was the first time I saw a big cutout, life-size cutout photo of Sai Baba, and they were having bhajans. I cannot recollect, but now I understand they were having bhajans and all. And that was the first day I saw a television set, black and white. I've never seen a television. So I think something, I do not know what is the meaning of it, but something new I saw. Maybe that's how I remember that day.
Okay.
And so after that, it was a long journey. I would know something about Sai Baba in various newspapers, articles or something. And then the real moment happened was in Laos, when I was working, and there Mr. Rommel came in. He's an IFS officer, Indian Foreign Service officer. He was charge d'affaires of the Indian Embassy to Laos. And I was just going to the airport to see off his predecessor, where I met him. And I've never met Mr. Rommel in my life before. And when we shook our hands, the first thing, I don't know why I blurted out that, "Sir, we need to arrange for some meditation." I've never spoken to any diplomat before that we need to arrange for some meditation. And I saw a glee in his eyes, He's like, yes, we should do it. And he really held my hands very tightly. That was the first thing. And then Mr. Rommel, he would organize different satsangs at his residence. He would invite various other people, and I was also one of those invitees. I would attend those. First few moments, I didn't know first few times what I was attending, but as I was mentioning to you, there was bhajan, right?
Right.
And I used to go more there for the bhojan after that. So he would always, madam would always prepare some very sumptuous meal after the bhajan. So I used to be the last person next to the door for all these bhajans. As soon as the bhajans would finish, the Oms would finish, the Samasta Loka, Sukhino Bhavantu would be over. So we would slowly come down. So I was the first person in front of the dining table waiting for it. But there's a moment before that when Mr. Rommel came in. A month prior to that, I was in Kolkata. And I don't know what happened. I suddenly decided that I should be initiated. So I went to Belur Math and we talked that I want to be initiated. And they said Swami Ranganathanandaji is not in good health at that point of time. And he said that, they mentioned that it can only happen at, after 6 months you have to put in your name. I said that it's not possible, I'm going back on 9th or something. And then they called me up and they said, on 8th if you can come, he will initiate you. So when I went in there, there was a mass initiation. There was about 200, 300 people sitting there. And as usual, I took the last row because I didn't want to be, I never want to be in spotlight. I was in the last row.
Right.
And then Swami Ranganathanandaji came, he sat in the room. And for some reason, he said something to the other monk who was there, and he pointed to me and he said, you come and sit in the front. So reluctantly, I went and sat in the front and he initiated. And now when I look back, I think that's what the Guru does. The Guru takes you to God. So I'm really grateful to Swami Ranganathanandaji that 1 month brought me to Satya Sai Baba, to our Swami.
How the transformation happened, where you were attending the bhajans, you were enjoying up to a certain extent, and that actually taken the precedence. So how?
From my childhood, I used to get a bit confused at times because there were so many gods and goddesses, right? I used to, maybe a lazy part of me, I used to think that I should pray to that one who is the ultimate. So of course, Lord Krishna was my favorite, and Lord Rama, I loved him because from a very early age, I started reading at a very, very early age. So I read all Ramayana, Mahabharata, all the Upanishads, not the Upanishads, even all the stories that you can think of, because my parents had a very huge collection of books.
Okay.
So that was the urge there. And then this bhajan was happening. And then one day, Rommel sir gave me 2 books. One was The Holy Man and the Psychiatrist, and the other book, unfortunately, I can recollect the name. It was written by not anybody, a famous Sai devotee, but that was a wonderful book in the senses that it was written by an average Sai lady devotee. And that auntie had written wonderfully well. It comes from a very lower middle class family, and the family's association with Swami. But anyway, I was given those 2 books, and I meticulously did not read them.
Okay.
I kept those 2 books. I have a good library in my room, in my house. So I kept those 2 books. And 6 months passed, and I did not read those 2 books. And my wife is a very conscientious person. So she told me one day, suddenly out of the blue, I remember it was a Friday evening while we were having dinner. She said that if you do not read those books, send back to Sir on Sunday, because every Sunday morning the bhajans would happen. So I also thought that, yes, she has a point, I should not keep them as I'm not reading it. So I decided that when I give the book back, perhaps Sir would ask me something about the book. And I considered myself very intelligent, so I thought that I'll read the first page, one random middle page, and the last page of each of the 2 books. So that, and my strategy was that I will initiate a conversation on what I would have read in those 6 pages. So I assured him that I have read it, but not really reading it.
Right.
So I remember that day, it was a Friday evening after dinner. I took out those 2 books. I started reading The Holy Man and the Psychiatrist first. And the first page led to the second page, led to the third, and so on and so forth. So by the time, I might have started about 8:39 in the night, and I finished the first book maybe around 2 a.m., 2 in the morning. And then I automatically took the second book. And by the time I finished reading the second book. It was about 6:30 in the morning. And I really didn't know what I read. I mean, I was so much blown over. I was sort of stupefied. I was sitting there from 6:30 to maybe around 1 hour, 7:30 in the morning. I was just wondering what I have read, how it can be true. And so my wife came out, and she understood that I have not slept. So she said that you have been reading the book. I said, it doesn't make sense. Here is this person saying he's Rama, he's Krishna. I said, I sometimes give percentage, I said 99.99% it cannot be true. I said, let me go and meet Mr. Rommel. And that was a Saturday, right? It was closed. But he had an excellent work ethic. He would even come to office on Saturdays and Sundays.
Okay.
So I went to the embassy and I was ushered into his room, and he was very surprised to see me early in the morning, a bit past 8, I was there. And he told me what brings me there. And I said that, who is Sai Baba? And he, being a diplomat, he was being very diplomatic in his response. He said that whatever you consider him to be, if he's a teacher, he's a teacher, he's a friend, he's a friend. I said, no, I don't want to hear all this. What do you consider him? So he said, I consider him to be the ultimate. And then I just left him. I came back home. I told my wife, we have to really go and see this because we should not miss it. But I told him, I think it is all rubbish, but we have to go. So that was the first journey. Then we landed in Puttaparthi
in 2002.
In 2002, Ganesh Chaturthi time. So by the time this happened, it took, I think, a month before we landed, and I had read many more books in between.
Okay.
So I was always hoping some miracles are going to happen somewhere. So yeah, that was the first thing. I landed in Puttaparthi.
So when you came into Parthi for the first time, and then how was your first darshan? How was that experience?
It was amazing, but there's also a story behind it. When I decided my wife and I would go, my parents used to live in Calcutta at that point of time. So I called them up and I said that, we want to go to Puttaparthi to see Satya Sai Baba. And so they were a bit, I wouldn't say confused, they were a bit intrigued. Why suddenly Satya Sai Baba? Yeah. But they are very supportive about spiritual endeavors and journeys. So they said, yes, we will also come. Okay. So 4 of us landed there.
Okay.
And the day we arrived, it was a bit in the evening, so we didn't have time to go for darshan.
Okay.
So we got into the ashram room in one of the north blocks. And my wife, she used to suffer from a female-related disease. She would have excruciating pain for some unknown reason, using an unhygienic toilet or eating papaya salad or something like that. Different things would trigger. And she suffered from it since she was 13, 14 years old. She's Laotian, by the way. Okay. She suffered from it from 13, 14 years old. And the day we arrived, again, that pain triggered. And we have shown so many doctors of different nationalities, And everyone would say, oh, it's okay, it will be cured. You are giving this medicines and it will be done. And nothing cured her. So the day we arrived, we landed there, in the evening, the pain started. And it was, what she mentioned, that it was such an excruciating pain. She said she never had this type of intensity of pain before. I didn't know what to do. She was just sort of clasping on my hand and was sort of digging deep into my hand. And I said, everyone says Sai Baba is the ultimate, he is God, and you just pray to him. And since I was not feeling the pain, I went off to sleep, right? So next morning when I woke up, she just said, I had a dream of Sai Baba. And he came in the dream and he said that, I know you are suffering, you have suffered for a long, long, long time. I bless you, you will not have this pain anymore. So that was 2002, Ganesh Chaturthi time, I think in September. And now it's 2019. She never had the pain after that. But anyway, that was the morning that happened. I just simply said that it's good. No, it is good because that you had it. And then we went for the morning darshan. Yeah. I think I must be the only person in the history of Kulwant Hall who first sat down facing the exit gate rather than from which side Swami would come. So a friendly Sevadal came and chastised me and said, turn around. So I turned around. I didn't know what to expect. So I was with my father.
Okay.
My father was sitting next to me, and I was always thinking some miracles is going to happen. I said, how does he come? Does he fly up? Does he come flying? Or will he suddenly come out of the ground? Or, how this... The imagination was running wild. Or maybe I have not done my homework, whatever, he would just come walking. I never did the homework.
Right.
So we were waiting, and suddenly those beautiful music starts, right? And then I saw people raising their hands, and I saw Swami for the first time. I was sitting way behind. And when I first saw him, I don't know, I started crying. And I'm a very arrogant person, and I didn't want to cry in front of my father. So the more I tried to control myself, the more was like the crying. So it was like you just open two taps. So it was like I was just shaking and crying, just seeing him. There's no reason, because he was just walking and I was hundreds of meters away from him. I was just seeing the people just folding. So that was my first actual seeing the Lord. Yeah.
So even though you didn't want to control your tears, it was rolling. So what did you really feel after that? Like, did you contemplate on what just happened?
It just happened, I think when you reflect on it, it sort of shows that there has been maybe connections for a long time. It was really, I tried my best. I didn't want to look such in shambles in front of my father.
Right.
But the more I tried, and my father did a wonderful thing. He saw me and he sort of pretended that he's not looking at me.
Right.
And it was a very moving experience. I didn't know. And then, of course, the remaining of the trip that time was that expedition to hand over a letter to him.
Oh, okay.
So we have to come in the early morning, sit in the row, and So finally he took the letter. So that was a major accomplishment, so that he took the letter.
So how did that journey continued from that first trip to, I know you have been associated with Swami since 2002 and then been done very wonderful service activities, so many things. I'm sure there's a strong inspiration from Swami that you derived. So what was that one incident, which really moved you and touched you in deep? Is there any experience that you have with?
I think there are many experiences. And different people have different sorts of experiences.
Right.
I'm blessed with that. I don't have those extreme experiences. Sure. I heard people tumbling down a cliff and Swami's hand taking care of it. Thank God that I don't have that. I don't want to tumble down a cliff or something. So I'm grateful to him that he has not. But it was this sort of aggregation of the small experiences. But I think the real changing was transformative was when I read those two books. That was one. The second was when I first saw him.
Right.
And you just really fall in love with him, right?
Yeah.
Since that day, whenever I used to come back to Puttaparthi, I used to feel that sort of love. And of course, I used to always be very afraid, I've done so many wrong things in the past. The last time since I've come here, please forgive me. Of course, that fear was there, not because he knows everything.
Right.
But at the same time, it was the strong love for him, I would never see him anything, but I used to always say that whenever I see him as a function of love, just love floating around, just love moving around. And, of course, his appearances, but I used to always taken aback by the robe he used to wear, So even if I could touch a bit part of his robe. And he allowed me to sit in the veranda very soon. So I used to sit there. So I used to enjoy, whatever the little conversation. The first time when he spoke to me, he spoke to me in Telugu, and I have no idea of Telugu, of course. So the day prior to that, I have some friends who are local there and who are Telugu speaking.
Okay.
So one of the brother I was walking, and he said, Swami spoke to this person, and Swami said, Chala Santosham. So I said, what does Chala Santosham means? He said, I'm very happy. I said, okay. So the next morning, Swami comes, and I just bend down, I touch his feet, and he said, Chala Santosham. So I was so happy that I knew what he meant. And then when Swami passed, there was one senior Sai devotee from New Zealand who was sitting next to me. Brother Doug, he patted on my back and he said, the place where I used to sit, I was the youngest, and all were the elderly people. So I had a very good time. I used to listen to their stories and all. So anyway, he patted my back and he said, good, Swami said he's very happy. And I felt very bad that being an Indian, I didn't know much Telugu, but he took an effort to learn Telugu. I said, you know Telugu? He said, no. I said, then how do you understand? He said, he spoke to you in English. He said, I'm very happy.
How has that really helped you, even in your day-to-day life, and what extent you could take the teachings of Swami in your life?
I think what happened prior to knowing Swami is that me and my wife, we never had any bad habits. We were good people in a normal way.
Right.
But we would be, like myself, on Saturdays, Sundays, I would be going to play golf, right? Networking, we need to know people. But more than networking, it's like playing golf and all those sort of things. But after knowing him, I think it happens with everyone. Life changes, transforms, right? The transformation was, how can we do something? Before it was, how can I succeed in life?
Right.
How can I be more successful? A better job, better earnings, bigger house, bigger cars. Yeah. Those were the sort of the objectives of life. Right. And then suddenly one fine morning you see the objectives of life have changed. It is, how can perhaps you help someone more? How can you do something helpful to someone else? And then suddenly you have that understanding that life is very short. And in the short span of time that we have been so fortunate to know him, right. And how can we do some little service activities, something to help others? I think that really changed our life. We wanted to do something for the society. And of course, Swami's ideals are so wonderful that there's no discrimination. It's like encompassing everyone.
Right.
And so we thought of that, how we can help the people who perhaps need some help.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you understand that you're not really helping anyone. You're just helping yourself to be a better person.
That's right.
So that was how it all started.
We also know that there is a Satyasai school that you're running since a long time in Laos, helping a lot of needy people. So how it started and that project?
Actually, Swami is running, and then there are many friends and families who are doing this actually. It happened in 2010, Guru Purnima time. We came with this proposal that we want to help some of the poor children to have some education, values-based education. And I came about 6 days prior to Guru Purnima with the plan in 2010 to set up the school and all. And I was so confident that Swami will bless the thing, and So the first day went by, Swami did not come. And those days Swami would not come almost every day. So it will alternate days sometimes. So the first day went, second day went, third day went. So it was on the fifth day. And so the next day was Guru Purnima. And I was so confident on the fifth day that Swami would come because, the theory of probability, it didn't happen all these days. So he came, and that day in the veranda, he went to each and every person. To the person on my left, he went there, but he stood at a place, that I cannot approach him. Then he went back and he came to the other direction, to the person on my right. He spoke to him and went back. So I felt in some ways very embarrassed that he spoke to everyone in the veranda except me. I was the only person who did not speak that day. I thought, hopefully nobody's noticing that maybe I'm the only one odd person who has not spoken. And and then I got very, very worried that, what is it? So I was just intensely sort of thinking that, oh my God, I should not take anything for granted. I really wanted to bless. So Guru Purnima day morning, as far as I recollect, he did not come. 2010. Right. And in the afternoon when we came, we saw that there was some decoration done. And we were told, please, you all have to sit down somewhere there. You all cannot sit here. I was devastated. As we were all going, so the person in charge said, no, only you can sit. So I somehow, out of the blue, I don't know. So all the elders were looking at me very strangely. How come this young guy gets to sit? Anyway, I was sitting there. He came and I showed him. And he blessed it. And he said that it will eventually happen. And in 2013, 23rd November, we did the groundbreaking ceremony. And then 2015, the school started. It started with about 60 odd kids. We started till class 3, grade 3. And since then, we have been adding one more grade every year. So this year it started with grade 7, and we have 250 children. And the students are academically doing wonderful. In grade 5, there is a nationwide board exam,
Okay.
primary board exam, and 4 of them just missed by 1 marks or something like that. Most of the students come from quite modest or poor background, so, and they're getting a very quality education. And if you look at the infrastructure of the school, that was the other thing which we thought, of course, the hardware is not that important. Important is what type of education we are giving. But we also thought that there should be a pride in which the children are walking in. So if you look at the infrastructure, it will sort of, I think, comparable to some of the international school infrastructure. The way the school, we have a library, we have a IT room, we have a clinic, a health clinic, we have a playground, we have a soccer field, a football field. So, I mean, and the infrastructure-wise is quite very good.
Of course, Swami started continuing his mission in a subtle form. So how did your journey continued in Swami's mission?
Yeah, as I mentioned, no, the whole urge was that how can we do good for others? How can we serve others? How can we be more beneficial to the community? So one thing that we did is in 2013, we did the Bhumi Puja for the school, and we started building the school. And because that was, we all thought that that's how we can really do a little bit, maybe a drop in the ocean to start doing some credible Swami's work. But we used to all miss Swami, right? And I remember that in 2011, after he left his body, I think after a couple of months, a month or 2 months, after I had a beautiful dream of Swami, and in that I saw suddenly I was in the middle of on a road, and Swami was standing with a couple of other people, and I was with them. Just a small group, just a semicircle around Swami. And Swami was talking to us, and what really piqued my interest in the dream, of course, that people were just walking past and nobody was noticing that Swami has returned. And then Swami suddenly said that, let's go and talk. And when we were standing, I saw very distinctly one Swami student standing beside me.
Okay.
And he was in pristine white shirt and a white pant. And somehow the whole group, very few standing around Swami, but nobody, I thought that is Swami student already in the dream. I said, this is Swami student for some reason. And then and Swami said, let's talk. And Swami sort of glided away and everyone started running. And for some reason, I was not running, I was walking briskly. And as usual, I was thinking, oh my God, I will not get a good place to sit because these guys are running and they will sit, So finally, when I arrived, I saw that Swami sitting, and this Swami student, again, I saw him sitting in front of him and other people sitting. And the first thing came to my mind, I have to sit in the back. But then when I saw myself seated, I saw that I was sitting in front of Swami, and Swami spoke in length, a long time, about various things, and I don't remember a single thing out of that. And then finally Swami said, take my arati, and somebody took the arati. And then Swami gave some vibhuti and told me, you, Mr. Ravi Sarkar, come here, distribute the vibhuti. And then, of course, that was the thing. So, of course, and my wife would also have some dreams that, in her own way, that he has returned, some sort of things. And then in 2014, Uncle Leo from Singapore, who had earlier done a beautiful SciNet project in Laos of the insecticide mosquito-treated nets, he told me about this visits from Mudanhalli and Brother Madhusudan and all. So that was the first time I made my trip in 2014, I think in June, if I remember correctly, just to first see how things are.
How was your reaction when you met Brother Madhusudan and also Swami in Subtle? What was your experience?
The first, again, very much didn't know what to expect.
Right.
I hoped it was true. I hoped for it, that it should be true. Right. No, not should be true. It would be great if it is true.
Right.
So when we went there and I was seated, suddenly I was having my doubts and I was thinking why I'm here, you know. And then I was in Dr. Ravi Pillai's house, and then the door opened and Brother Madhusudan and Uncle Narasimhamurthy and others guys came. That time I just put my head down. I was thinking, I've been conned and I should not be here. You know, it's so I could not even pick my head up for about 5-7 minutes or 10 minutes. By the time I looked up, Brother Madhusudan was already settled, and I saw that empty chair. And then again, I had the same thing. My emotion just started, and I was just again crying, looking at that empty chair, and I felt something is there. And then, after the satsang was over, you know all those great people there who had attended. Nobody knows you, but you know all those famous people you have seen. And suddenly Dr. Ravi Pillai comes and says that Swami wants to see you and your family. And some of those very famous people said, oh, are we sure? I said, no, no, no. So that was also intrigued my interest, is that we are nobody, you know.
Yeah.
Why us? And then when we went and we understood that he knows everything about us. But even that was not a final sort of a thing, you know. He knows everything about us. But what is very important is what I understand, is to make an effort.
Right.
To see that we should have that much of love, that to see that if it is really true. So we made several trips. And very interesting is that we had a daughter who was born in 2009, and we used to take her as well. And I think in December, my wife could not travel. And so I was with my daughter and we were called again. So me and my daughter, we were there in the room, and he said, now that you have a daughter, you should have a son. And my first reaction, oh, thank God that my wife is not here, because it's a very touchy subject for us, because the doctor said that we cannot have any more children. We tried IVF and all those sort of things, and it never worked out. We were happy with our daughter, right? So we thought that, I was just thinking that good that my wife is not here, because it's a matter of, you know, I think as a lady, you are more sort of sensitive towards this sort of things.
Correct.
And my daughter was so small, little at that time, I thought that, okay, she has not understood much of it. Yeah. So when we returned home, I bragged about that, oh, we had this interview and all those sort of things. And I meticulously left that topic out, and I thought my daughter is too young to understand all those things. It was in 2014, December.
Okay.
And then 2015, June, my daughter was admitted in Puttaparthi in Swami's primary school. Very blessed to get there in standard 2. And then suddenly we felt, nothing to do. You know, Swami is taking care of our daughter. We have so much time at hand. No, we should do maybe something more good for the society and all. And that time, again, Dr. Ravi Pillai told me that, you know, he's coming. Will you like to come? I said, yeah, sure. So my wife this time traveled with me. And last time when we went with my daughter, when we entered the room for the interview, Swami said, where is your wife? I said, oh, she could not come. So I said, yes, I know. She does all the work and you do nothing. I said, yes, true. So this time, when again we were called in June in Swami's room in 2015, and he said, and we entered both. He said, where's your daughter? I said, in your school in Parthi. He said, I'm very happy that she is in Parthi. And then as we settled down, Swami said, now that you have a daughter, you should have a son. The same sentence. And in reality, what would happen? People will say, oh, thank you so much, Swami. But both of our heads, we sort of, you know, we hanged our heads down. And I don't know, maybe at that point of time, maybe Brother Madhu, I mean, this is my imagination, might be struggling to understand why these two guys are not thanking Swami rather than,
right.
Because we have the background, right? We know
Exactly.
that it's not possible. And the next thing which Swami said is that, you are not ready? I will send. And we came out, my wife did not say anything, and when we returned to Laos, the first thing my wife said, you know, you are going, it's fine, I will not stop you, but you never take me there. Because if it is Swami, it cannot, he will know.
Right.
Now fast forward, in 3 months' time, suddenly she says, you know, I think I'm pregnant. I'm expecting a child, and out of the blue. And of course, I used to go regularly to visit my daughter, so I didn't want to make it a big thing. No, I thought that if it doesn't turn out to be
Right.
true, then we should not. So I said, okay, you go and check. So long story short is that yeah, we have a son. Swami named him, and Swami has said different things. But anyway, he named him, and we have a son. But one thing happened is in October, my daughter has holidays.
Okay.
So she returned, and suddenly my wife saw some blood discharges, and so it is a very serious thing. So we ran to Thailand with my daughter, and we were sitting in the doctor's room, you know, all dark, and she was about to be examined. And the first thing the doctor said is that, and it really happened in this way, it's like a sequence. The doctor said, I told you it's a high-risk pregnancy, but before. And of course, when I heard that, immediately my daughter, who I did not realize more than a year back what she heard or what she said, but Baba, Swami said that I will have a brother.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately I had a phone. Bhajan started playing. I didn't have an idea that there was a bhajan, there was anything. So by that time I could reduce the volume and everything, you know, because I didn't know even how to switch it off, because I didn't know from where it was, what apps it was playing and all. So, yeah, I mean, he has been always there in different ways.
How are the mission continuing and of course Swami is continuing, and then he's also visited quite a few times to Laos as well. So how was your experience, and what Swami is expecting?
It's a very overwhelming experience, and every time he visits or every time he guides us, it is always about serving others, being more selfless. And that's the beauty of it. How can you be more and more useful to the society? How can you do more? How can you be more selfless? And you know, he is taking us to that sort of the higher level of. So I mean, it's so inspirational. It's very difficult to say, and he inspires and touches each and every individual there, and that's the great thing. I have seen people who had really not much understanding or not much introduction, how they are being overwhelmed, how they become emotional in front of him. I mean, he's touching each and every soul. And just inspiring, just do good work and nothing else. Just do good work, just do more seva, just do more service, just be some benefit for the society. One of the things about the Sai school is that it has been said that we will have, Swami said that in 5 years' time, a Center for Human Excellence will come up, and it will be a sort of a regional regional house for different countries.
Okay.
Children, I mean, youth will benefit. It will be university will come up, basically what he said.
Okay.
And we have a clinic, and he said that in future it will transform into a big hospital, and he used the thing that even surgeries will take place there. So he has given a lot of things for us to work on, and that's wonderful. We know we are resources are so limited, but it is also his amazing grace that we never had any big challenges. Somehow things have been smoothly moving, and it is making people and more selfless, and people who were not maybe knowing how to do the service before or not being willing to be so selfless are willing to be selfless and do more good for the society. So it's amazing transformative things. But of course we do other service activities as well. We go to a blind school for children. We take care of some of the operational costs, and then we do certain small service activities there. We, as I said, we run a small clinic which helps the local communities, all where free consultancy, free medicines are provided. Any learning is that we are so bogged in our life about little things, no? Better job, better way of living, bigger houses, flashier cars and all. But we should move away from that to have some higher ideals of life. Once we go for those higher ideals of life, I think that the basic things are taken care of. So the thing is, people to think, not to really confine in this sort of this low body-mind complex, how I'm going to survive from day to day, rather than to sort of spiritually transgress a bit and think about that, how can I be How can I serve the society in a big way? Having some great ambition to serve society in a big way. So once you can do the bigger things, the smaller things are taken care of. So that's my little understanding that I have.
That's actually a profound understanding, because that is the way of life that one should lead in. So thanks a lot, brother, for your wonderful time and then sharing all your experiences.
Sairam,
Sairam,
brother.
Sairam.